Hey guys, Jonah here. I'm just going to make a quick video here. This is going to be like an unlisted video just for internal training use for the 51st VFW. I'm mostly making this for Maverick, but it might be helpful to JDAM or anybody else who is kind of new to the F-18 or trying to figure out the on-speed thing. So there's a super easy way that you can practice this. You don't need any kind of like complicated mission editor setup or anything. Just go to instant action. Choose the F-18. Any map will do. I'll just leave it on Caucasus and then go free flight. So we'll just wait for a second for this to all load up, and then I'll see you when we're back in the pit. Okay, we're back in the pit. Get your track IR all set up the way you want, and then go ahead and hit fly. And then first things first, let's come down to the water where it's nice and flat, since you're going to be doing this most of the time over water anyway. As we're in the descent here, you can go ahead and cage your HUD. The cage uncage button is what you use to center the HUD.
Altitude.
If you're like me, I'd prefer to have that meatball in the center for most of the time until I'm on like final bearing with the ship, and then I kind of uncage it. It's especially helpful in this free flight mission because the free flight mission that comes with the F-18 is pretty windy actually. So let's get down to about 800 feet. Another thing you can do is go ahead and set your altitude to radar alt instead of baro alt. And then let's come left now that we're at 800 feet. We'll stabilize at 350 CAS and we'll get on a true north 360 heading here. Alright, and I'm going to change up my displays just because I find the radar distracting when I'm doing all this. Alright, now that we're mostly set up, I'm going to show you how to get into an on-speed configuration, or how I do it. In my opinion, it's easier to do this when you're in a turn, because if you try to get into it while you're in level flight, when those full flaps start to kick in, what you'll notice is your aircraft will really start to come up like this, and it will take almost a full stick of forward input to get you to maintain level flight. So it's a lot easier to do it in a turn, and you're going to be doing it in a turn most of the time anyway, because you're going to be doing it during your brake turn when you're getting lined up for the downwind of the carrier. So I'm also going to turn on my inputs so you can watch what I do with my stick and everything in the lower left there. So the brake turn is you go flight idle, you pop your speed brake to full, and then you brake at 1% G of your airspeed until you get to about 250 CAS, which you drop your gear and set flaps to full. This is going to happen just a little bit past the 90-degree mark of the turn, and then you usually roll out of the turn and let the flaps and stuff kind of carry you through it the rest of the way. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. I'm going to go flight idle, speed brake, roll, and about 1% G of the turn. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get it to be pretty close. That's your target. Looking for 250 CAS. There, gear out, flaps to full. Now I'm rolling out of the turn a little bit, and just a little bit of back pressure, and I'm just descending a little bit from 800 to 600. Now I'm going to start blending in some trim, okay? And we're looking for 180 on the heading tape. Blending in a little bit more power now so I don't sink too much. There's 180, and power it up and stabilize myself at 600 feet. Perfect. Right on speed now. Let's say I added too much trim, right? And I was kind of like this. So this is kind of like close but no cigar. Let me pause it and I'll show you here. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to line up this flight path marker exactly with that middle tick of the E bracket, right? And in your AOA indexer, you're trying to get amber donut without any green chevrons on the upper or lower side of it. So this is telling me that I'm pretty close to being on speed. I'm close but no cigar. I'm just a little bit too slow now, and I have to add some forward trim to get me back to on speed. So I'll just go ahead and do that, a little bit more trim. And now you can see I've got it just about perfect there. It's very close to the middle tick. I've got an amber donut, so I'm pretty much on speed, level flight, just a little bit below 600 feet here. You can see I've got my gear down, flaps to full and everything. So one thing I want you to pay attention to is my inputs when I'm in this configuration. I'm not using the stick at all in any forward or backward movements. And also notice my throttle, I'm always making tiny little adjustments, tiny little forward and backward adjustments, right? Always making these little corrections. And the reason why I'm doing that is because there is no magic spot on your throttle axis where you can just leave your stick alone and maintain level flight. Like, watch what happens when I try to do that. When I let go of the stick, seems like I'm pretty good. I'll let go of the stick now. And what happens is you'll automatically start to climb up. So you always have to make these corrections, constantly moving forward and backward on the stick. And you're trying to find an average position on the stick between your forward and backward movements that is going to keep you in level flight. Okay. Also try doing this in turns. Like, let's say you want to do about a 30-degree bank here. What you're going to find is that you're going to start to dip below the horizon, so you're going to have to add a little bit more power, spend a little bit more time in the upper range of your throttle axis than in the lower range of it to maintain that level flight. And I'm not touching forward or backward on my stick at all to make those corrections if I start to dip below or above the horizon. All these corrections are done with power increases or decreases. So let's continue this turn all the way around to heading 360. So the stick I'm only using for left and right roll, that's it. So now that we're back in level flight, I have to spend a little bit more time on the lower or mid-range of the axis and not so much on the upper range of the axis. So if you need to come up, you're too low, like, you just give it like full power, and what happens is your nose will start to come up. If you're too high where you want to be, you just bring your power down and let the nose fall down. You don't need to touch the stick in a forward or backward movement at all. And being on speed is super important, because if you're not on speed and you're rolled out on the downwind like this, and you're number 2 or number 3 in the flight, you might start to overtake the guy in front of you if you're not trimmed out the same way that he is. We've seen that on some of our previous training sessions, so it's super important to get on speed. Another reason why it's important is because when you're in this configuration and you add power, you come up, and when you decrease power, you come down. And the LSO is going to give you directions assuming that you're in this configuration. If you're not in this configuration, you're just in like a normal, like, neutral state for your trim, and the LSO says power, something like that. He wants you to come up, but if you add power in that way, you're just going to go faster in a straight line, which doesn't really accomplish what he's trying to get you to accomplish. So any direction the LSO becomes useless if you're not trimmed out properly, right? So a good drill is just to get into this free flight, like I showed you, do that brake turn, get on speed, and just spend like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes just flying around like this. Just get used to the handling of it. And when that starts to get boring, go ahead and pull in the gear, flaps back to auto, get your speed back, and try another brake turn, right? Get yourself back to 800 feet. And 350 CAS, there we go. And then try it again, right? So flight idle, speed brake, 1% G of the turn, and deploy gear and flaps at 250. There we go, 250, gear, flaps to full, rolling out of the turn a little bit. Letting the flaps mostly pull me through, starting to blend in a little bit of trim here. Just a couple clicks. Click, 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 click. Looking for 180 on the heading tape. Adding power as I get to 600 feet. A little bit more trim required. There I am, 180, and it looks like I'm almost perfectly on speed. And then I would just fly around for another 10 minutes or something, in this configuration, making left and right 30-degree banks. So try that out for yourself, guys. Just practice a little bit. I'm sure you're going to get the hang of this. It makes things a lot easier, for actually touching down and doing a proper trap. And it's crucially important to get this down so you can maintain spacing with everybody else in your section or division when you're recovering. All right, so I hope that was helpful, and yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.